It is talk, 0344 499 1000. So I was just talking and referencing Ed Miliband there. And this, of course, is all connected to it. The chair of the Energy Security and Net Zero Committee is warning we will absolutely need to change the way we live to meet our ambitious emissions goals for 2030. This is Bill Esterson, says households will need to switch out gas boilers for heat pumps and use more electric cars. His remarks contradict Prime Minister Keir Starmer, of course, who said that we can, hit those climate targets without telling people how to live. Let's speak with Chris Morrison, environment editor at the Daily Sceptic. I don't even know where to start, Chris, to be honest, and good afternoon to you, by the way. Thanks for coming on with us. But this was, of course, in many respects, perhaps inevitable that we would hear, it didn't come from the mafia don, not Keir's doing, but the fella running the committee has said, no, you've got to change your life. What do you sense changing our lifestyles looks like, apart from a heat pump?
Well, good afternoon, Ian. Again, yes, I was listening to your piece earlier about your dreams about...
Yes, I know. I apologise for sharing that, but...
No, I share mine. I have them as well every day. And usually there's Sergeant Fraser from Dad's Army in the background. We're doomed. We're all doomed.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yes, and of course we are doomed. What's coming out now is they're realising that they can't pull the wool over our eyes. At the Daily Sceptic, I've been writing for some time now. We look at what they actually write, what they say, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. I use the example of UK Fires, which is an academic body which was funded by £5 million from the last government. And they talk about absolute zero. And it will chill you what's being planned. By 2050, this is no flying, no shipping. No meat, no lamb or pork, limited public transport, and 60% of heating. And what they do, of course, is they say if you're going to ban hydrocarbons, which is still the official policy, ban all hydrocarbons, then what you will get is you'll get a world that is bereft of all the things that we hold dear. They talk about another one that UK Fires does is they look at building materials. They talk about all of these things that we use for building: concrete, aluminium, glass, plastic will all go. They talk about rammed earth. These people are talking about mud huts. The UN recently had a similar survey to the UK Fires. They looked at build materials. This, again, was partly funded by the British government. They talked about forest detritus, bamboos, and mud bricks. Again, we're back to mud huts and grass huts. And
wow.
It's no good saying this is a conspiracy theory. This is what is not only has been planned, but what is accepted will happen if we get rid of hydrocarbons from the economy. And not only that, if we get rid of, it's not just energy, as I think I've said to you before on your show and certainly on other shows, that if we get rid of hydrocarbons, which are in everything from medicine to water purification, fertilizer, organic chemical fertilizer, half the world's population will simply die. Because that is what we've relied upon to feed 8 billion people reasonably well, compared with what's happened in the past. This is what we've relied on. We've relied on being able to put back into the soil more nitrogen, which we can do through using hydrocarbons, a particular process. And if we get rid of that, half the world will die. So I think what you're seeing is this chap, I saw him briefly before he came on, I think they're starting to sort of say, well, actually, this is going to be a bit awkward when the lights start going out and all these things are being planned. We better sort of, put a bit of warning in. But the warning they're giving is nothing compared to the warnings that if you look at the published sources, you will see.
Will they get away with this, though, Chris? I mean, because this is, fundamental stuff that is, central to just our existence. And if something is going to change this, and I'm sure if Ed Miliband was sitting here, he'd go, no, none of that's going to happen. That's just one group's advice or worst scenario. That would be, I would imagine, his answer.
Well, Miliband, the mad Miliband, doesn't come in his studios like yours, I guess, no. And he certainly wouldn't debate the matter with me because we would look into the science, is it justified, all this sort of thing. No, I wonder why they do it. They're ideologues, as you say. I think it's a luxury belief. I think that I've long thought that it's very much along the lines that we've had 70 years of prosperity. We see this in previous cultures. Life gets easy. Life gets, we forget that nature is actually a very tough place to make a living in. It's a tough neighbourhood, Earth. And we've managed through all sorts of wonderful inventions powered by hydrocarbons to live in conditions of comfort that 99.9% of our ancestors would only dream of. Yeah. And I think that people have just got used to it. They've had in the West no war, and they think they can do all this thing. They can invent this ridiculous climate catastrophe. I always use the words. As I say, if there is a climate catastrophe, we have to do it. If carbon dioxide is a problem, if hydrocarbons are a problem, obviously we have to go to this, massive rejection of our industrial lifestyles. But is it settled? I always use the words of the 2022 Nobel Physics laureate, a modern giant of science called Dr. John Classer, who says it in fairly robust terms. He calls all of this, climate that humans causing the climate change, controlling the climate thermostat, the climate emergency. He calls it a crop of crap. Yeah. He's not the only Nobel laureate in physics who takes a similar view, if not quite so robustly. There's a chap who won it in 1972, who signed the World Climate Declaration, which also says there is no climate emergency. Now, if we have to go to all of this stuff, which they're starting to sort of, vaguely hint this might be so, yes, we have to go, but let's reopen the science. It's not settled. It's not, it is far from settled. There are many, it's a hypothesis. Hypothesis is science for opinion. There are many opinions on the way that greenhouse gases and gases in the atmosphere work, and there are many opinions that are better at explaining why these gases were much, much higher in the past without any effect, it seems, on the temperature.
So we'd be in the worst scenario based on this, Chris, is that we'd be in a sort of perpetual lockdown, right?
Yes. Can you lock down caves?
That's very true, yes. While living in a cave or a hut,
Can you lock down a mud hut? Because you can't use any aluminium to make the lock.
That's very true, yes.
Who knows what these people are planning? I don't think they even know themselves. I think they're just immersed in their luxury belief. They read this stuff, and I just don't know. I've been writing about this now for 3 or 4 years. I think even 3 or 4 years ago, when Johnson was, going around the world stage and everyone was sort of cheering him on and all this sort of thing. I don't think people really realise, but people are starting to twig. As far as this chap goes up to 2030, yes. So I think, I certainly talked about it on the station elsewhere. They're really looking to decarbonise the grid, but of course they've got to have a full set of gas turbines on standby. So what will happen is that the electricity price will go through the roof. Nobody will be able to make anything here. There'll be blackouts for the times when they can't actually control. Last week, for instance, the wind was at 4%. During the storm, it was, I think, 50%, or when wind was blowing. There's no way to really organise an electric grid on that basis. So we will, and I think what this chap is doing is he's starting to say, well, yes, you've got to go to all these things. But you were talking earlier, again, I was listening to a little bit earlier in the show about this petition of 2 million people. Yes. I'm not a great fan. Is two-tier Starmer going to change his mind because, someone's, signed their name? No, I don't think he is. I think that, but there will be real pressure when the blackouts start. When you can't buy a second-hand car if you need, if your income bracket is such that you need a second-hand car, because the electric ones have all been worn out after about 5 years. You need a new battery, and the any petrol ones will probably rise in price, and the new ones will be beyond the scale. When the farmers, when you start rewilding as they are in Wales, 20% of the land and covering the attack on the farmers, which I think is all part of a plan, they'll be selling up to wind farms. And solar farms will be reduced food supplies. If you look at UK fires, there won't be any shipping anyway in a few years' time. So, we're doomed. We're doomed.
Well, are we? Do you think we will see, Chris, a very tangible manifestation of this? Because there is the sort of mission creep thing that, we won't really know what's happening until it's too late. But do you sense in the next few years something so fundamental will happen that the rest of us go, whoa, 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 I'm sorry, that ain't going to wash. And then there'll be the inevitable uprising.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's hope it's not an uprising as to when the Sri Lankan president in, I think, 2022 banned organic fertilizer, and within 6 months he was hightailing it to the airport ahead of let's say, a posse of concerned citizens.
Yes. It's a good way to put it.
Yes. So let's hope it won't go. Let's hope that we don't see Miliband making a fast exit to RAF. Not thought. Yeah. Because of course we don't want anything like that. But I think that people are starting to obviously realise what's involved. I still don't think they realise completely what's involved, and they won't until say the lights start to go out. But I think I would relate it to a wider point, that this whole thing about net zero is tied into the luxury beliefs of the liberal elites. It's all to do with the woke and the idea that men can be women and all the whole caboodle. It's much a sort of a game plan.
Yeah, turning the world upside down almost.
It's just destroying our history, destroying our traditions, open borders. Now, you're starting to see this huge reaction in Europe. There may well be a shift to in Germany, where they're even more ahead of trashing their industrial base. But look what's happened in America. What's happened in America. It's been completely wiped out. For the next 4 years, the people, if you like, on the other side, the people have regained, I would say, reclaimed their country from the liberal elite. And Trump will go absolutely crazy. He's going to come out of the Paris Agreement. So that $300 billion that they were waffling on about, it's totally meaningless. Who's going to pay that? $100 billion a Baku. He's going to frack like crazy. So at least when Miliband has stopped all our oil and gas, we'll be able to buy it, at a price, of course.
Yes.
Because
but it will be there. I mean, to me, that was the revelation of the Trump victory. Whatever everybody thinks about Trump, it will perhaps change the rules of engagement for planet Earth, and therefore you have to see that a powerhouse and economic enormity such as the United States can't fail to have a knock-on effect somewhere along the line here.
Well, I always think it's interesting to look at. I don't think, people do realise what a superpower the United States still is. I think it's got a $30 trillion GDP. Yeah. China's the next with about 18. But if you look at, Europe, I mean, with 3-4 trillion, Germany, Italy, France, us, of course. Now that the sheer economic power that you have now seen in America has now shifted, you will see a lot of this environmental stuff, the diversity stuff, all tied up with environment. You'll see a lot of it, businesses will start to move away from all of these restrictions and you probably won't see many boots or Jaguar in the States anymore, because that would just become unfashionable. Businesses are very good at moving to where profit is ultimately. So you will see this change. But I think this sea change has to happen. And unfortunately, what's happened in this country, as we know only too well, we had a general election a few months ago and the right split. And the right split mainly because the Conservatives forgot how to be Conservatives. And that simply let Starmer in with a popular vote share less than the previous Marxist leader.
Correct. That should never be forgotten.
That should never be forgotten. And they've ended up with this huge majority of mainly younger elite, people just out of university. We're doomed for a bit. But
for a bit.
I'm a half glass full kind of shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a workaround. Let's put it like that, shall we? Listen, Chris, it's always great to have you on, sir. Thank you. Chris Morrison, environment editor at the Daily Sceptic.